And here she showed it as barging into
Abdul Kalam's
Abdul
office.
Kalam. Because Abdul Kalam is the president of India.
But you actually barged into his office?
Not his office, I barged into the minister's office because I was not getting the license. I was reluctant to give the film rights. People used to call and some would say, why don't you fund it? I said no. I said that becomes a self-promotion. It has to be done by people who believe there's a story there. So I agreed to the Tamil first. And of course, the question everybody asks is, why didn't I give it to a Kannada? So no Kannada director or producer came to me.
Today we are talking to Captain Gopinath, a legend in Indian aviation. Surarai Potru, a film based on his life and times, has just won a national award, and the lead actors Surya and Aparna Balamurali have also won Best Actor and Best Actress awards. So thank you, Captain Gopinath, for agreeing to talk to Deccan Herald. Yeah. Let's start with your connection with cinema, your connection with art and culture. Your uncle Guru Ramaswamy Iyengar is a writer of great repute. I was just reading his book, Nammurina Rasikaru, and then 2 films based on his novels, Bhutayana Magayu and Hemavati, were path-breaking films, and Bhutayana Magayu was a phenomenal hit. It was a blockbuster.
That's true.
So, what is your connection with cinema?
My connection with cinema has been very less, except I always loved good cinema. When I meant good cinema, not to be snobbish, I liked movies like Vamsha Vriksha, and of course I loved Bhutayana Magayu, or some of the movies of Girish Kasavalli or Girish Karnad, and Yoranathaputi Samskara. I also read those books. And similarly, Satyajit Ray movies and movies in some Bollywood movies I've seen, some are extremely good. But my association with literature is there because my Guru Ramaswamy Iyengar, my grandmother's brother. So there's some affinity to literature because my father introduced me to it. After my book Simply Fly, which also got translated to Kannada to called Banayana, which became quite successful, when a few people contacted me to say that we would like to make a biopic on Simply Fly.
So, how did Surya come into the picture, and when did they contact you?
Yeah, because actually I was reluctant to give the film rights. People used to call and some would say, why don't you fund it? I said no. I said that becomes a self-promotion, and also it's not the right thing to do. I mean, you don't finance your own film. It has to be done by people who believe there's a story there. It's actually Girish Karnad, who came home for a dinner sometime, had called some other guests, and he came to my wife on 2 occasions, and he said, I've been telling your husband to give the film rights, and even now I'm ready to, put on the paint and take part. Tell him I will also introduce him to somebody. That's when I started thinking about it, and also Maniratnam's wife, Suhasini, she also mentioned that it has got great cinematic value. And of course now coincidentally the director Sudha Kongara, who because it also won not only best actor, best actress, dominated, got about 7 awards, including the best feature film. It was not considered in the regional category, it is considered in the national category. Where, along with Hindi, it was evaluated along with other languages. So there is a big honor in that sense that it won over all the big Bollywood movies. So I first gave it to the film rights. There is a lady called Gunit Monga, who is a very famous Hollywood producer. And she had done Lunchbox and Gangster Wasepur and Haram Khor. She had done quite a few important movies in Hindi. So I actually gave her the film rights for Hindi in the first instance, and then to other South Indian languages. So then, she came about 3 years ago, and she said, Captain, there's this lady, Sudha, who is absolutely pursuing me, not letting me sleep. She wants to get the rights for Tamil, and I want to give it to Tamil first. So initially I said no. I said give it to Hindi first, and then you can give it to the other languages. She said because I thought it will have a bigger appeal. She said no. She's very particular. Like Bombay was made by Mani Ratnam. She's the Mani Ratnam's assistant director. So I gave it to Sudha. Sudha came and spent some time with me a few times. Met my other team members. Met my wife. Met my daughter. Spent a lot of time. Read all the books, took all the archives. So I was impressed by her, and so I agreed to the Tamil first. And of course, the question that everybody asks is why didn't I Kannada? Why didn't I give it to a Kannada? This one. It comes to the same thing, because unless the Kannada, though Ramesh, that famous actor in Kannada, did a very big show which became a big hit called Weekend with Ramesh. It was a very popular show. I did that. He's an actor. So no Kannada director or producer came to me. So that's how we gave it to Tamil.
Yeah.
Actually, then she said, I want Surya to come and meet you.
Right.
So Surya set up a meeting, and he came and met me, and we had a chat, and he said, Captain, I've read your book 4 or 5 times. I'm convinced it's got great appeal. So please give us your blessings and all that.
Yeah. So other story then I think was transplanted from Karnataka into Tamil Nadu.
Yeah,
and
though in the Kannada dubbed version, they changed the names. If you go through a railway station, the name will be a Kannada name there.
Oh, I see.
It will be, the song also is translated to Kannada. Yes. So they have done a good job in the Kannada dubbing, but I told them you should have had a Kannada title. But because it got released in Amazon, and there it was like a huge wave of success, because I think it came at a time there was depression, entrepreneurs had lost jobs, there was a huge gloom for some time. Yes. And there was an immigrant crisis. It was a very, very bad time, in that period. So they were also a little shocked. They kept on postponing the release, and finally they went ahead with Amazon, including Hindi.
Yes, it's an inspiring story, and
inspiring because the story shows all the hardships that people usually encounter in life. You persist. Giving up is not an answer, and also believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams, because it all starts with the dream, and believing in the dream that you have.
In the film, when they transplanted the story set in Karnataka to Tamil Nadu, it's very well scripted, very powerfully narrated story. What has it gained and what has it lost? Do you think, culturally speaking, were there nuances that were lost and nuances that were gained?
It is always there, because if you completely make it true to the events, even if the events are quite exciting. It could be Lincoln's movie of Lincoln. There's another movie called The Aviator of Howard Hughes. Any of the biopics, then it becomes a documentary. It becomes a report. But then you dramatize it. You give it your own kind of imagination to breathe the. It has to be probable. It must be realistic, the character, but it cannot be 100% real, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with the filmmaker. I think he has to breathe some dramatization and fictionalization. I think in this case, though there was some criticism, there was an excellent review actually, I think by somebody who is more towards the BJP, for example. I think it came in Swarajya. A very good review, which I read. As a reviewer, it was very good. He said, the hero was Brahmin, but in the movie he was made a Dalit. The villain was not a Brahmin, but the villain was made a Brahmin in the. So he said, this is a distortion of the original story. There was no need to make it. It could have been still done. Was one of the criticisms, which is true. But I think in her case, See, one is, it is a story of an underdog, right? It is somebody, I studied in a village school, I went barefoot to a school. Of course, there was no uniform in those days, nobody wore shoes. But there were children who were less fortunate than me. My father was a poor teacher in that sense. So, and from there, I went to a military school, I went to the army, then when I had a good job, I was just 21, I became 22, I became a captain in the army, and all the opportunities to rise to the top. But I just resigned and came back to do farming, and got into deep trouble like all farmers. I got into debt, I got out of debt. But then I got this crazy idea and did a lot of other businesses because my farm was not paying. I kept falling, but I kept rising, I kept falling.
Yeah. So I think, which brings us to this question about how much of it is fictional and how much of it is true.
So what she did is, she fictionalized it now there by saying that, of course, if you say you're a Brahmin boy and making it, see, it is a story because she puts my picture in the end. She says I started a low-cost airline. But instead of making me in her mind, it was made to a Tamil audience, but I think it also resonates with others because my story was told to the rural youth, because that's how I wrote the book, to tell people from rural areas that don't keep complaining, you can do it, provided you have that hatha, chal, whatever to do it and work hard. Dreaming is not enough, along with dream you have to compare it with adventure and work. So what she's done, she made him a Dalit instead of a Brahmin, so that it becomes more dramatic. And my wife runs a bakery, so she made a Dalit woman from a rural village, but changed her name, and so the bakery is still there. So a lot of people come there to see, which is this bakery. But I think what she did was extraordinarily good in another way. One is, of course, there is a little bit of masala, this one. A lot of other fictionalization is there, like the Malia character is being paid by somebody. Some of that dialogue is correct because
there's a Balaya who looks
so like in one place Malia. It says Malia who is being portrayed by somebody, and she also didn't want to get into the names because then there may be legal issues. There could be this one. There is another issue. They made someone look like Malia, act like Malia, and he says. Come, let's go for a beer. He says that. He says, then the dialogue, he says, I'm a socialist, I'm not a socialite.
Yeah. Did you actually say that to him?
Not exactly that. But, I used to be wearing a linen shirt with the jeans, always, wherever. I never wore a suit when I went to see the minister. I used to go with a linen shirt. And I used to travel economy. I would not stay in 5-star. As against his, where he would go in a private jet, and in the private jet he would also bring the MPs with him. So it was a contrast, right? So, and I would come on the TV and say that I want more Indians to fly, and where he said this low cost is embarrassing, and he wants to have a full service carrier. So that contrast was there, and we were all the time at daggers drawn. So she brought it up also that Naresh Goyal, he has put somebody else, I think Paresh Rawal access Naresh Goyal, I think. So all that, that contrast, she brought it out well. The dialogue is quite racy, and there are some things that dramatized. They made someone look like Abdul Kalam, because Abdul Kalam represents good.
Yeah, but did you actually barge into his office?
Not his office, I barged into the minister's office, because I was not getting the license. So it's there in my book. I barged into his office and demanded my license. I said, the Prime Minister is saying every day, this is what I'm doing, and Nasim Rao is saying that, but when I come, you send me back. Something like that. I went in. He said, then why didn't you come to me earlier? And I said, of course, ministers take money. Business people give money because they want the job done. If you go with a briefcase, they say a fool and his money are soon parted. But I didn't pay, and once I did not pay when there was a Congress minister, and I did not pay when there was a BJP minister, because they must have said, okay, I'll take it from some other corporate big guy, right? They will come and give it. In fact, they don't have to. They will give the money. So I barged into that minister. Then here she showed it as barging into
Abdul Kalam's
Kalam, because Abdul Kalam is the president of India, and they made him look like Abdul Kalam. And but Abdul Kalam doesn't sign these things. But I think Abdul Kalam represented, because he had a man, he was a saintly man.
More
so
idealistic.
It was more like idealistic, so he was a good. And the bureaucrat or the one the others who were trying to stop me, because a lot of the competitors were trying to stop me all the time. They were writing letters to the MPs, questions were being asked in the parliament. He said, what is this low-cost airline? Is this safe? Please do not give it license. Who is this guy who has suddenly come? So every day there was some appeal to stop.
There's also a plane that catches fire, and
that happened in the actually not exactly as it happened in the movie, but it caught fire in Hyderabad airport when Chandrababu Naidu and all the ministers were there, civil aviation. I was also inside the aircraft, and they asked me the first question. I said, no, we're going to fly after 1 hour. I asked the pilot. He said, is there any issue? It also, it could have happened. It happened today. It could have happened on the 1000th hour of flight, because it came flying from France, 6,000 miles. I thought next day flight will be empty, but because every newspaper carried it to the front page, TV was carrying it, and Air Deccan inaugural flight. But next day the occupancy was 95%. So she dramatized it to the extent, which I think was good.
So the low-cost airline experiment that you pioneered in India, where does it stand today? I mean, do you find a huge difference from the time you actually came, introduced Air Deccan, and what does the scene look like today?
I think it is not 100% the Air Deccan model, because the Air Deccan model was, give the cheapest fare, take them on time, safely, right, with their bags. That is the only thing. We are a transportation company. We are not in the gourmet business, right? The focus should not be on the quality of food. Though of course you give food. Focus should not be on the air hostess. We are not in the fashion industry, right? We are a transportation business in the main. So your job is to carry a large number of people, as many number of people, at the lowest cost. That should be the priority, because then more people can fly. That is the model that Air can flew. That's the reason I would not give water on a flight, because that's a cost. Because somebody doesn't drink water, he'll pay for water that you drink. Somebody doesn't have excess bag, but you have excess bag because your wife tells you take this pickles and other things to my daughter, and you carry excess bags, but that guy has no bags, but he pays the same fare.
Yeah.
So there is differentiation of you pay for what you use. That avoids wastage, and then people who are using less things will pay less, right? That was the concept in which it was built. And of course people would say, at least keep newspapers. I said, no, newspapers if you keep, it costs money. To put it inside, it takes more people. Then you have to clean it, because people don't leave it clean, they'll really mess it up. Then you have to put new papers again. And it increases the weight, it increases the fuel cost. If I have too much of food on the airplane, it gets wasted. Then as against earning money and reducing the fare, I'm spending money after he comes on board. Right? Air Deccan was flying 8 million people, so if you pay even 5 rupees per bottle or 3 rupees, it's about 3 crores. So that's how the model was built. But today, some of that is diluted, and a lot of it is also because competition is key. So, right, for example, when we have competition between the airlines, we must also have competition between the airports. Airports have become monopolies, so the airport costs have gone up. So all this has an effect, because you need to otherwise you'll only be taking each other's passengers. Right. The passenger who is in Jet Airways will come to Deccan, or he'll come to Indigo, and from Indigo he'll go to the new airline. You want more people, you have to expand the market. The way to expand the market,
that's not happening in a big way.
Not having it, because even today only about less than 4% of India is traveling. Which is equivalent to many African countries, whereas in Norway or Ireland, for a population of 4 million, 20 million people are traveling. For a population of 300 million in Europe, which is equivalent to India, 700 million tickets are sold. Whereas in our case, only about 140 million, 150 million tickets are sold for a population of 1.3 billion. So less than 4% of India can access air travel today. Because many of them who are traveling once a year or once in 6 months, but most of them are frequent travelers. So that number is very small. The only way to make that is that you have to compete with trains. Because today you are having about 20 million people traveling by train every day and buses.
So you see huge potential, and
Huge.
it can get even bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. It can really become big. Because as I said, you have got about 19 million to 20 million people traveling by train every day. I'm not talking about the metros. So we have to get more people to fly, because then only you can be globally competitive also.
One of the things that happens in the film is that you turn down Malya's offer or Balaya's offer, to buy your airline for 16 crore.
Yeah.
But in reality, you actually sold your airline to Malya.
In the book also it is there. Before he started his airline, he met me. He was sitting there in a big kind of a throne, and he had people there. He said, Gopi, I'm trying to start an airline. Where do I start? Why don't you allow me to invest? Become your partner. He made me offer 2-3 times, but I said no. Then he started his own airline. But when he started a full service airline. Then, when Air Deccan became very big, and oil prices went from some $11, it went to $150. And all of us were losing money. And then I had a lot of investors in my company who were all big investors. Then they wanted to exit, because they said Air Deccan got listed, Air Deccan stock was doing well. They said, Captain, when we were getting worried, we want to exit. So they put pressure on me to get an investor. So Anil Ambani was one with whom I had a talk. Rather, he approached me, and we actually shook hands with Anil Ambani, but it did not come through. Then Malya sent a message, and I had said no. But then Airbus came and said, look, do this deal, because he has got same aircraft. Any of the public shareholder meeting, many investors who had put money like, Captain, when are we going to get our returns? So all that was playing on me, and so we were already listed. Then Malya gave an offer better than Ambani's. Then we agreed that there will be Air Deccan will be separate, because that was the condition I had put. He agreed to that, and he invested. But after he invested, he believed that his model was better than my model, and he convinced the board and the other shareholders, and he changed the model to full service. That's when his trouble began, and it did not work.
Yeah. So in the film, there are many airlines, many entrepreneurs who have a dirty tricks department. They try to stop an airline from landing, and they have connections in high places, and they sabotage whatever you're trying to do. How much of this is true?
No, it was there, because I was not getting parking in, for example, when I asked for parking, I got one parking in Bangalore, one in Delhi, one in Cochin. Jet Airways had 20 aircrafts in Bombay and 20 in Delhi. So it is easy to manage. Whereas in my case, they did not give me parking place. So that's what I said, that the entry barriers had to come down, because people with no money should be able to start with whatever they have. That's how I think every great enterprise has been built. It is not money that built it, it was the dreams. Then when money will come.
What are the entrepreneurship lessons that you've learned? Because looking at Karnataka, we had our Udupi restaurants, but otherwise Karnataka entrepreneurs were not really well known until you came into the picture, and Narayan Murthy came into the picture, and Malya also, for that matter.
All said and done, Malya was a charismatic guy. He was an entrepreneur in his own right. Things went bad.
What changed in the last 30 years that helped Karnataka entrepreneurs, dreamers like you, actually set up big businesses and run them successfully?
I think one is Bangalore has that ecology. There's an ecosystem there. And Bangalore has that because it has got large number of course there's a lot of migration to US. The large number of manpower available here, the climate is good. I think this is a very cosmopolitan town, though sometimes you feel sad and bad that sometimes politically there are signals which are not conducive for entrepreneurship, the kind of what do you call communal clashes that take place because of political patronage sometimes, or political indifference, which allows this kind of things. Regardless of what incentives you may give, what tax concessions you give, if there is no communal harmony, no business will come. I mean, that is the as someone said, trade is a plant which will grow where there is peace, so long there is peace, as long as there is peace. If there is no communal harmony, businesses will not grow. So that is one fear that is there. Constantly we are having this communal pot getting stirred. It was always there. You used to have communal clashes now and then, but this kind of a constant communal narrative that is going on is not good. But in spite of all that, I think the bad infrastructure, I think that Bangalore, there's a huge IT feeder here, not only from Bangalore, but from the surrounding areas. And that liberal climate, where people can have enjoy a glass of wine, glass of beer, without the government overlooking at their shoulders or something. It happened, we had some right-wing saffron brigade coming into Bangalore and catching a lot of girls and pulling them out of the bar. We can't allow this moral policing because all this is the ecosystem for entrepreneurs. I think Bangalore provides that.
Okay. Yeah. And this is about your personal taste. You are a connoisseur of classical music. You conduct this annual concert at Gorur, and you invite classical musicians to come and perform. What is the kind of music you listen to? Who are your favorite musicians?
I listen to all kinds of music. I listen to a lot of Hindustani also. I listen to people like one of the greatest Hindustani classical musicians now is Venkatesh Kumar. As we are talking about the ecosystem, there's something in the soil of Dharwad, Gadag, and Hubli, which has produced the greatest of musicians, classical musicians, Gangubai Hangal, Mallikarjun Mansur, Basraj Rajguru, and Bhimsen Joshi, Gandharva, all of them are from that particular soil. Similarly, produced Bendre and a whole lot of literary and painters. There's something in that soil, right? Similarly, there's that same kind of thing is there for the entrepreneurship here. So, but I love Carnatic classical music because my mother used to play violin, Carnatic classical. There was always music in my house. So therefore, I host a concert in my village. It's open to all communities, and I get eminent musicians. I also got Pandit Venkatesh Kumar. I got many eminent classical musicians. They come in the temple on the bank of the river. This is the 12th year now. Every year I host this concert on the day before the Ratha Saptami. Right.
So at 70, what do you look forward to? What does the future hold?
I'm always thinking. Of course, I keep writing, and I'm also writing about entrepreneurship. My third book is coming, a collection of my articles, and I have a company which I'm mentoring my people there. So I don't run the company myself. So I have people running it. So maybe something will happen.
Thank you, Captain Gopinath.
Thank you
so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Very nice. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And taking the trouble. Yeah.